Imagine one day waking up and realizing that nothing external can shake your peace. Criticism does not affect you. Loneliness does not scare you, and the challenges do not paralyze you. Does it seem impossible? Not for those who dominate the power of Stoicism. We live in a world where emotional dependence, search for approval, and fear of rejection dominate most people. But what if I told you that the key to a full and unshakable life is already within you? Stoicism is not an outdated philosophy, but a practical manual to face any situation with strength, clarity, and absolute control over their emotions. Marco Aurelio, Seneca, and Epictetus have left teachings that turn lives to this day, teaching how to find happiness regardless of external circumstances. When you understand that everything you need is already in you, freedom becomes your greatest ally. In this guide, you will find out how to develop unbreakable self-confidence, build healthy limits, master your emotions, and find an inner peace that no one can take. With each topic, you will learn practical tools to become emotionally independent and never feel that you need someone to be happy. True trust is not to scream to the world how amazing you are, but this certainty showing without words. A firm look, an upright posture, and a determined walk say more about you than any speech. Marco Aurelio believed that a man's strength was in his own rule. If you need to convince others of its importance, you may not even believe her. Confidence is born of self-knowledge. When you understand your strengths and limitations, there is no room for insecurity. Epictetus said that the only thing under our control is our actions and thoughts. If you are dedicated to personal growth and remain true to your values, external validation becomes irrelevant. A lot of people confuse confidence with arrogance, but they are opposite. Arrogance needs to prove, confidence is only. You don't have to boast of your achievements or show you know more. A true master teaches calmly and acts with humility. The safer you are from your skills, the less need you will have to convince others. Small posture adjustments can transform the way the world perceives you. Strap your shoulders, keep your head high, and breathe with peace of mind. When you present yourself with presence and security, people naturally respect you more. Try this today. Get in any environment as if you belong to it and see the difference in the way you treat you. Self-confidence is also in the way you express yourself. Speak clearly, without haste, and avoid apologizing all the time without need. Many try to soften their opinions so as not to displease, but this only weakens their position. Expressing yourself with firmness and respect demonstrates mental strength and maturity. In addition, confidence is built with small daily victories. Each time you fulfill a promise to yourself, either wake up early to train or complete a project, you strengthen your self-esteem. The worst thing you can do is tell yourself that you will do something and do not fulfill. Your brain learns not to trust you, and your posture reflects it. Finally, remember that true security comes from within. Nothing external can give you genuine confidence because it is not a gift, but a reflection of your effort and development. Do not wait for the perfect moment or for the approval of others. Act now, confident that you already have everything you need to become the best version of yourself. True strength is not in the explosion of words or the exaggerated demonstration of emotions, but calm in the face of chaos. Quiet people have a natural magnetism as they transmit security. Seneca claimed that inner peace is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to face them with balance. If you lose your head for anything, you are delivering your power to external factors. A lot of people believe to be quiet is to be passive, but not quite. Tranquility does not mean accepting everything silent, but acting with strategy and emotional control. Think of the great leaders who marked the story. The most respected were not those who shouted, but those who kept the serenity even under pressure. If you want to be admired, learn to control your reactions. A good way to cultivate this serenity is to master the art of conscious breathing. When you feel you are about to lose control, stop for a moment and take a deep breath. 3 deep breaths are enough to give your brain time to process the situation rationally. Try the next time something tries to get you out of the axis. Also, practice emotional distance. Not in the sense of being cold, but understanding that many things are not worth their energy. You do not need to respond to all provocations or justify your decisions all the time. Strategic silence is often more powerful than any argument. Not every combat is worth your peace. Tranquility is also linked to simplicity. The less you cling to unrealistic desires and expectations, the less you suffer. Stoics teach us that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The more lightness you put in life, the more space creates for true inner peace. Will that problem that bothers you today still important in 5 years? Another essential point: protect your environment. Avoid people who always bring chaos and confusion. You cannot control others, but you can decide who deserves your energy. If your tranquility is worth less than a friendship or relationship, it may be time to reassess these connections. Choosing who enters your life is one of the biggest acts of self-value. Finally, understand that tranquility is a daily choice. Small practices, such as starting the day without cell phone, creating moments of silence, and avoiding useless discussions, make all the difference. When you realize that your peace is above any provocation, you discover that true freedom is not what happens around you, but what happens within you. Being a whole person is not about seeming correct in the eyes of others, but acting according to their values, regardless of who is observing. When you align your words and actions, you build something that no one can take from you: credibility. As an Epictet taught, it is easy to pretend virtue when there is audience, but true character reveals itself when no one is looking. Integrity need not be announced. Truly whole people do not spend energy trying to prove that they are good, because their attitudes speak for themselves. Anyone who is too honest is usually trying to convince himself. Instead of speeches, build an unshakable reputation through consistent choices. The confidence of others is a reflection of their own internal confidence. Many compromise their integrity for fear of rejection. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no just to avoid conflict? But true respect does not come from submission, but firmness. Defining your limits and maintaining your word are signs of strength. After all, those who bow to any wind never build strong roots. Being intact also means taking responsibility. If you make a mistake, have the courage to recognize you without blaming others. Weak people find excuses, strong people seek solutions. When you assume your flaws and correct your directions, your credibility is strengthened. Marco Aurelio said that the greatness is not perfectly, but in the ability to constantly improve. And integrity is not only about morality, but also about authenticity. Being who you really are, without masks, is one of the greatest acts of freedom. When you are completely accepted, you no longer need the approval of others. Anyone who likes you will know that they are dealing with someone true, and those who do not like at least respect you for their consistency. The path of integrity can be lonely sometimes because many people prefer shortcuts and falsehoods. But in the long run, Those who live with truth attract solid relationships and genuine opportunities. You may even lose something for acting with righteousness, but you would lose much more if you sold your principles. Peace of conscience is infinitely more than any passing gain. In the end, integrity is a commitment to yourself. If you want a world where you can trust others, start being someone in whom others can trust. This is the true power to live according to your values, without masks, excuses, or approval of others. Your truth will always be your greatest strength. True power is not in mastering others, but in mastering yourself. Those who do not control their emotions become a slave to circumstances, impulsively reacting to each provocation or obstacle. Epictetus already said, "It's not what happens to you, but how do you react that matters." When you learn how to command your reactions, it achieves a freedom that few have. A lot of people believe self-control means to suppress emotions, but this is a mistake. Stoicism teaches us that we must recognize our feelings without allowing them to dominate us. Feeling anger or frustration is natural, but acting based on these impulses is optional. Between stimulus and response, there is always a space, and this space is where its true strength lives. One of the best ways to develop self-control is through silence. When someone teases you, your first reaction may be responding in the heat of the moment. But try taking a break. Tell up to 5. Take a deep breath. Often the absence of response disarms the other and gives you time to act intelligently. Not every fight needs to be fought, and most dissolve when you don't feed it. Another powerful habit is to avoid promises and decisions at the height of emotion. If you are very excited, you can end up making commitments that you don't want to fulfill later. If you are very angry, you can say something that will regret. So, before taking an important attitude, wait until emotions calm down. Intelligent decisions are made clear, not impulsive. Self-control is also linked to the domain of desires. Living slave to momentary pleasures such as excessive food, social networks, or impulsive spending weakens your discipline. The more you get used to giving in to impulses, the harder it is to resist in the future. Small acts of control, such as saying no to something superfluous, strengthen their ability to command their own life. And don't think self-control is a limitation. On the contrary, it is a superpower. Who can keep calm in the midst of chaos becomes unshakable. In a world where everyone reacts without thinking, the one who acts with strategy always has advantage. Mastering their emotions is what differentiates those who control their fate from those who are only led by the winds of circumstances. Finally, remember, self-control is not about becoming insensitive, but about being the lord of yourself. When you learn to choose your battles, maintain serenity, and not get carried away by impulses, you find that true freedom does not come from the outside world, but from the mastery over one's mind. Being real present is one of today's greatest challenges. Our mind is always in the past, brooding errors, or in the future, anticipating problems. The result? We lost now, the only moment that really exists. Stoics taught that life happens in the present, and full attention is the way to mental clarity and inner peace. Have you ever realized that some people have special magnetism? They are not looking at their cell phone while talking to you. They don't look distracted or hurried. They are simply there, whole, and this makes us feel valued. Presence is power. Who dominates this art builds deeper connections and leaves a positive mark wherever you go. Science confirms what philosophers already knew: the mind rambles almost half the time, and that reduces our happiness. When we are present, we experience life more intensely. Whether in a conversation, a walk, or a moment of learning, try to understand every detail. The world around you becomes more alive when you really pay attention. Being present also means listening for real. Instead of just waiting for your turn to speak, practice the act of listening. Observe one's body language, realize your emotions, absorb your words. Few do this, and those who do naturally stand out. People who feel heard trust you more and see you like someone strong and safe from you. The presence is also reflected in the way you act. Walk slowly, with erect posture, and watch out conveys a different energy. Someone who moves with calm and purpose demonstrates safety and self-control. On the other hand, those who always seem rushed and dispersed conveys restlessness and lack of control. Your body speaks even before your words. To cultivate the presence, try simple exercises. Eat a meal without distractions. Take a walk without headphones. Spend time watching the environment around you. The more you practice, the more natural you become. The goal is not to be perfect, but to be more aware of every moment. In the end, presence is not where you are physically, but where your mind is. If you learn to deliver yourself totally to now, you find that life is not in the past or the future, but here, right now. And who dominates the now dominates life itself. True greatness does not need spotlight. The more you know, the less you feel the need to prove it. Humility is not to diminish, but to recognize that there is always something to learn. Epictetus said that the one who believes to know everything closes the doors for growth. The wisest are not those who speak loudly about their achievements, but those who hear more than they speak. Many confuse humility with submission, but they are very different concepts. Being humble does not mean accepting anything or lowering your head to everyone. On the contrary, it means having enough security not to need to inflate the ego. Those who have true self-confidence feels no need to show off. Their posture speaks for themselves. Arrogance is a dangerous trap. When you believe you have already reached the top, stop evolving. Large masters of any area continue to learn regardless of the level they have achieved. Think of the biggest athletes, entrepreneurs, or leaders. All have mentors, all seek improvement. The difference between a winner and someone stagnant is the willingness to learn always. Another essential point of humility is knowing how to recognize errors. No one is right all the time, and admitting a failure does not weaken you. On the contrary, it strengthens you. People respect more those who have the courage to take over when they make a mistake instead of insisting on a mistake for pride. A humble leader inspires confidence because he acts with transparency and truth. Humility is also reflected in the way you treat others. The way you treat someone who can't offer you anything in return says a lot about your character. Respecting all people, regardless of social position or status, demonstrates maturity and greatness of spirit. Those who need to humiliate others to feel superior only reveal their own insecurity. To cultivate humility, practice the art of listening. Instead of discussing a point, try to understand different perspectives. Read books that challenge your beliefs. Talk to people from different trajectories. Be open to new ideas. The world is too vast so that a single view is definitive. In the end, humility is one of the biggest signs of strength. Who is truly big need not shout this to the world. Your attitude, your posture, and your actions already make it clear. And the more you learn, the more you realize that knowledge is infinite, and this consciousness is what puts you in front of the majority. In today's rapid world, where everything is instant, patience has become a rare superpower. We want quick results, immediate answers, and sudden changes. But nature does not work that way. Bamboo spends years strengthening its roots before growing out of the earth. Similarly, true progress happens in silence, away from the eyes of the world. Stoics taught that everything has their time, and that suffering for wanting to anticipate the future is useless. Marco Aurelio said that the best way to deal with life is to accept every moment as it is, without despair or in a hurry. You may want something to happen soon, but if it's not the right time, all the anxiety in the world won't change it. Better breathe deeply and keep working. Patience does not mean inertia, but knowing how to wait without despair. It is the difference between a chess player who thinks some bids ahead and one who acts impulsively. If you want to build something lasting, whether in career, relationships, or self-development, you need to understand that solidity comes over time. No great work was done overnight. Who has patience does not despair in the face of challenges. Instead of frustrating with an obstacle, you see an opportunity for learning. Every difficulty you face is a piece of the puzzle of your evolution. If everything were easy and immediate, growth would be impossible. The resistance that life imposes is not a punishment, but a workout to strengthen you. Patience is also linked to self-control. When you learn to wait without anxiety, you avoid making hasty decisions. How many times has anyone ruined something for acting on impulse? A wrong investment, an unnecessary fight, a bad word. All of this could be avoided with a simple moment of reflection. Giving time to time is a form of wisdom. Also, being patient differentiates you. In a world where everyone wants everything for yesterday, who knows how to wait is already ahead. The entrepreneur who builds an empire is not what seeks fast profit, but what he thinks in the long run. The athlete who wins is not what he wants instant results, but what he trains for years without giving up. True success belongs to those who understand time. Finally, remember, patience is not just enduring the wait, but learning to enjoy the process. Each passing day, every small advance, each challenge surpassed is part of its construction. When you accept this, anxiety decreases, clarity increases, and life flows much more lightly. Happiness is no longer in having, but in appreciating what we already have. The mistake of many people is to believe that joy is always in the next goal, in the next achievement, at the next level. But what if everything you need to be happy is in your reach now? Stoics teach us that true wealth is not in possession, but in the perception of the value of little things. Gratitude does not mean accommodating or stopping growth, but recognizing that even in the midst of challenges, there is always something to be valued. Seneca said that complaining about life is a waste of time, because as we focus on what is missing, we forget to see what we already have. Constant dissatisfaction steals our peace, while gratitude gives us the emotional control. If you want to develop this power, start the day listing 3 things you are grateful. It can be something simple: having health, a roof over the head, a true friend. The human brain is programmed to focus on negative, so this exercise trains your mind to see the good side. The more you practice, the more you realize that you have much more than you think. Gratitude also strengthens resilience. In difficult times, instead of giving yourself to lamentation, ask yourself, what can I learn from it? Even the most challenging situations bring valuable lessons. Often the greatest difficulties of life end up leading us to better paths than we imagined. Seeing this gives you strength to move on more lightly. Another powerful effect of gratitude is that it changes the way people perceive you. Those who live complaining removes opportunities, and good connections. Already who values what they have conveys a different, more magnetic energy. Grateful people are naturally more confident because they do not feel victims of life. They know that each day is a gift and act according to this mindset. In addition, gratitude reduces anxiety. If you live thinking about what you don't have yet, you will always be in a state of mental scarcity. But when he recognizes his achievements, even the small ones, he feels a sense of abundance. This does not mean that you should stop seeking growth, but that it can evolve from a state of contentment rather than grace. In the end, gratitude is a habit, not a passing emotion. You can choose to look at life with brightness or abundance. What changes is not reality, but the way you interpret it. And when you learn to see the value of what you have now, you realize that you are already richer and more complete than you thought. Even before opening your mouth, your body language has already said a lot about you. Studies show that 55% of communication is nonverbal, that is, the way you move, look, and position yourself has more impact than your words. Stoics knew this and preached self-control as a way of transmitting authority and serenity without having to raise their voice. The erect posture and a firm look say more than any speech. Those who are curved, head down, give the message of insecurity. Who keeps the spine straight and looks straight into the eyes of others demonstrates self-confidence. Small adjustments can completely change the way people perceive you and, more importantly, how you feel to yourself. Silence is also a powerful tool. Often, less is more. People who talk too much trying to justify or explain themselves transmitting weakness. A simple firm look can be more effective than a long response. As Marco Aurelio said, the best defense against verbal attacks is silent contempt. Not everything needs an answer. Another crucial element is the tone of voice. Speaking very fast can show anxiety, while a calm, paused voice conveys control. Realize how great leaders speak rarely hurry. They know that their words are weight and are not in a hurry to launch them. Try this talk a little slower and see how your speech gets more impact. The gestures also communicate a lot. Excessive movements can give the impression of nervousness. Already those who use their hands contained and needs it seem safer and in control. Imagine that each gesture is an extension of your message. Use them with intention, not randomly. This reinforces your presence and makes others take you more seriously. And remember, eye contact is critical. Escaping the eyes of people passes insecurity, while looking at them naturally and quietly demonstrates a presence. It is not about staring all the time, but of maintaining a firm visual connection without hesitation. When you look someone in the eye while speaking, it conveys conviction. In the end, your nonverbal expression can be your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. Small adjustments to posture, voice, and eye contact can completely transform the way others perceive you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. Trust begins from the inside out, and your body must reflect this strength. From an early age, we are conditioned to believe that we need something or someone to complete us. But the truth is that you are enough just as it is. Stoics taught that happiness should not depend on external factors, for everything outside our control can be lost. True peace comes from within, and when you realize it, it becomes unshakable. The incessant search for validation is a trap. How many times have you worried about the opinion of others? The need to be accepted makes us hostage to the judgment of others. But think external approval really changes who you are? Marco Aurelio said that the opinion of others should not affect us, because the only thing we control is our own character. This does not mean isolate or become indifferent to relationships, but to understand that your happiness cannot be in anyone's hands. When you believe you need someone to be happy, put your well-being under someone else's control. This makes you vulnerable and dependent. But when you find that you already have everything you need within you, it breaks free from this emotional prison. Emotional self-sufficiency is a daily achievement. It begins with small acts, learning to enjoy the company itself, making decisions without waiting for the approval of others, to find pleasure in simple things. A coffee alone, a walk without distractions, a moment of reflection, all of this strengthens your connection with yourself and reminds you that you are complete. Another important point is to eliminate the idea that your life begins when something happens. You'll be happy when I get that job, when I find someone, when you have more money. This thought always maintains your happiness in the future, always out of your reach. Stoics teach us that life is now and that the key to satisfaction lies in accepting the present moment. This does not mean to conform, but to understand that your happiness should not depend on external circumstances. You can seek growth, evolve, and achieve great things, but not believing you need something beyond yourself to be happy. True freedom is knowing that you already have value, regardless of what happens around you. In the end, the person who can make you happier and more accomplished is already with you all the time yourself. The sooner you realize this, the faster you will win a peace that no one can take. Because when you understand that it is enough, nothing can make you feel insufficient. Arturo was a talented mechanic, but with a big problem, he didn't trust himself. Whenever a difficulty arose, I asked for help to colleagues, even when I knew the solution. Deep down, he feared making mistakes and being tried. The fear of the failure kept him dependent on the approval of others, preventing him from seeing his own ability. One day the workshop received a car with a complex engine problem. Everyone was busy, and Arturo was alone in the face of the challenge. The old instinct of searching help hit hard, but something inside him said, "What if I try it first?" He took a deep breath, analyzed the engine calmly, and started working. For the first time, he decided to trust himself. These were hours of trial and error, patience, and logical reasoning. Arturo had no one to validate every step, so he had to learn to trust his own trial. Insecurity tried to dominate him, but he remembered what he had heard once. You only discover your strength when you have no choice but use it. At the end of the day, she turned on the car and the engine worked perfectly. The satisfaction of solving the problem without depending on anyone was liberating. Arturo realized that he always had knowledge and ability. It was all a need to believe it. It was at this moment that something changed inside it. The need for external validation gave way to unshakable confidence. He understood that often the biggest barrier is not the lack of capacity, but the fear of trusting himself. From that day, Arturo began to face challenges otherwise. Instead of seeking help before trying, he allowed himself to make mistakes, learn, and improve on his own. Not that he never asked advice, but now he did it by choice, not by necessity. Emotional dependence has been replaced by self-confidence, and the respect of colleagues came naturally, not because he tried to please, but because his posture changed. Arturo's story teaches us a valuable lesson: true security comes from within. As long as you depend on the endorsement of others to act, you will be trapped in an illusion of disability. But when he finds out that he has everything he needs within himself, he becomes unbeatable. The question is, are you waiting for someone to validate your potential, or are you going to do as Arturo and trust yourself? In the end, No one can give you the self-confidence you need to build yourself. What can you do today to take an extra step in this direction? True peace does not come from outside, but from within. Depending on others to feel good is like building a house on sand. Any wind can knock it down. Stoics taught that emotional control is one of the pillars of freedom, because those who do not dominate their emotions are dominated by them. When you learn to be your own source of balance, nothing can shake you. Emotional independence does not mean coldness or isolation, but know that your happiness cannot be in anyone's hands. When you put your well-being in the actions of others, it becomes vulnerable. If someone praises you, you feel good. If you criticize you, you feel bad. But what if your self-esteem didn't oscillate according to the opinion of others? This is the true power. To develop this force, start by observing your reactions. How do you deal with rejection, criticism, or silence? If you feel you need the approval of others to feel complete, it's time to change this mindset. Instead of seeking external validation, focus on becoming someone whose opinion is enough. Seneca said, "Want to be respected? Then respect yourself first." Another essential point is to learn to deal with loneliness. Many people fear being alone because they don't know how to live with themselves. But loneliness doesn't have to be a burden. It can be an opportunity for self-knowledge. Spend more time with yourself, find out your own interests, and learn to feel comfortable without distractions. Those who are well alone will never accept less than they deserve in a relationship. The next step is to set limits. Those who have emotional independence know how to say no without guilt. Many people wear out trying to please everyone, but end up frustrated and overwhelmed. The secret is to understand that you do not need to sacrifice to be accepted. From the moment you impose limits, your energy and your self-esteem increase. Also, exercise emotional detachment. This does not mean not to care about anyone, but to understand that no one can be responsible for their happiness. Healthy relationships are based on exchange and respect, not dependence. When you learn to love without clinging obsessively, you find a freedom that few know. In the end, emotional independence is a choice. You can spend your life hoping that others will make you happy, or you can take control and find this happiness within you. Which path will you go? Saying no is one of the most powerful acts of self-vain. Those who do not know how to deny ends up hostage to the wills of others, always putting the needs of others above their own. Stoics teach us that a boundless life is a life without peace. If you do not define your priorities, someone will do it for you, and usually it will not be for your benefit. The fear of saying no comes from the need for approval. Many people fear displeasing or seem selfish. But think, what's the point of being dear to everyone if, in the process, you wear out and annul yourself? Seneca said that who pleases everyone does not please himself. You need to decide, do you want to be accepted at any cost or respected for what it really is? Learning to refuse requests without guilt is an exercise in self-confidence. The next time someone asks you something you don't want or can't do, take a deep breath and just say, "I can't right now." No need to be justified excessively. A firm and polite no is enough. If the other person does not accept, the problem is not yours. A big mistake is believing that saying no means being rude or insensitive. In fact, it is the opposite. When you learn to position yourself, avoid resentment. How many times have you accepted something against your own will and then regret? Placing clear limits avoid future wear and maintains your healthier relationships. Another important point, not everything deserves a yes. When you say yes to something you don't want, you are automatically saying no to something else, usually to yourself. Every commitment you assume without need to steal time and energy that could be invested in your own goals. You need to be selective where you put your attention. If you have difficulty starting, practice with small things. Refuse an invitation that does not interest you. Deny a request that will overwhelm you. Do not answer calls you can expect. Each time you position yourself, reinforce your self-confidence and realize that the world does not collapse when you prioritize yourself. In the end, saying no is an act of freedom. You were not born to live at the mercy of the expectations of others. Who understands this gains respect and, above all, inner peace. After all, who really values you will respect your limits, and those who don't respect have ever really valued you. Your self-esteem cannot depend on the opinion of others. If you allow compliments to elevate you, you will also allow criticism to knock you down. Stoics taught that true confidence comes from within, based on actions and principles, not external validation. When you understand this, it becomes unshakable because its value is not for sale. Many people seek self-esteem in the wrong place: status, appearance, external achievements. The problem? All of this can be lost. If your trust is linked to something that can be taken, then it was never yours for real. The only solid foundation for self-esteem is self-knowledge. The more you know yourself, the less you need external approval. The basis of self-esteem is the congruence between what you say and what you do. If you promise something to yourself and fulfill, strengthen your self-confidence. But if you live sabotaging, your mind learns not to trust you. Small, honorable commitments create solid self-esteem. Stop expecting great achievements to feel good about yourself. Celebrate every daily victory. Another essential point is not to compare with others. The world is full of illusions. Social networks show only the best moments, never behind the scenes. Comparing your real life with the showcase of others is a right way to frustration. Focus on being better than yesterday, not being better than someone. The only real competitor you have is your past version. The language you use with yourself also defines your self-esteem. If you criticize yourself all the time, you are training your mind to see you as insufficient. Instead of belittling, reinforce your evolution in getting better. I am capable of. I have everything I need to win. The brain believes in what you constantly repeat. Feed it with words that strengthen you. And remember, you will never be enough for those who do not know how to recognize value. Trying to please everyone is to waste time, because there will always be someone who will not like you. But the truth is that it doesn't matter. What really matters is, do you respect yourself? Do you admire yourself? If the answer is yes, then it already has everything you need. In the end, unqualified self-esteem does not come from applause, but attitudes. The more you respect yourself, the more the world does the same. And when you realize that your value does not depend on anyone, you discover a strength that no one can take. Silence is a powerful weapon. In a world where everyone talks too much, the one who knows when he is silent stands out. Stoics valued silence because they understood that words are often wasted. Who speaks without need reveals weakness. Who dominates silence conveys strength and mystery. Think about how many times you have regretted saying something on the impulse. An unnecessary comment, an exaggerated reaction, a hasty confession. Silence avoids errors and gives you advantage. Marco Aurelio said, "The best answer for a fool is silence." Not every provocation deserves response. Not every discussion deserves your energy. Silence is also a strategic tool. When you talk little, people pay more attention when you finally manifest themselves. Have you noticed how respected leaders speak in a paused and controlled manner? They understand that the impact of words is in their scarcity, not on abundance. The more you speak, the cheapest your speech becomes. Also, silence gives you time to think. Instead of reacting impulsively, you observe, analyze, and choose the best answer. This short break can completely change the course of a conversation, a business, or even a conflict. The difference between a wise response and an impulsive response is the time you allow before you speak. Another benefit of silence is that it bothers those who depend on validation. Insecure people feel the need to fill all spaces with words. Already those who have their own confidence does not fear the emptiness. Knowing how to be silent at the right times demonstrates emotional control and self-control. Silence can be the best way to impose respect. But the power of silence goes beyond interactions with others. It is also essential for self-knowledge. In today's noisy world, few can be silent alone without distracting themselves with music, cell phone, or TV. But it is in silence that you find yourself. Moments of reflection help you understand your emotions and make more conscious decisions. Finally, remember words are like arrows once released, they don't come back. Choose them wisely. The well-used silence protects your image, strengthens your presence, and gives you advantage in any situation. And in the end, the one who dominates silence dominates himself. No one will appear to save you. This may be a hard truth to accept, but it is also liberating. Stoics teach us that depending on others to solve our problems makes us fragile. True power is to take full responsibility for their own life and act as the protagonist of history itself. Many people spend their lives waiting for a savior, a partner who completes them, a boss who recognizes them, a friend who helps them. But this mindset only generates frustration. The reality is that you are the only person who can change your situation. When you understand this, stop complaining and start acting. Marco Aurelio said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." Being your own hero means abandoning the role of victim. You may have been through difficulties, injustices, and difficult times, but clinging to it only keeps you stuck in the past. Stoics preached acceptance. We cannot change what happened, but we can decide how to act from now on. Your life changes when you take control of your destiny. This does not mean that you need to do everything alone, but that it must become self-sufficient. Learn new skills, strengthen your mind, take care of your health, and seek financial independence. Each small step makes you less dependent on others and more confident in your own ability. The security you seek in the world must be built within you. A true hero does not regret, he finds solutions. Faced with an obstacle, you can complain or you can look for an alternative path. The difference between those who win and those who fail is not in luck, but in the mindset. Life does not favor those who expect, but those who move, even when everything seems uncertain. And remember, being your own hero does not mean being infallible, but having the courage to move on, even with fear. Fear never completely disappears, but action weakens it. The more you trust yourself and act, the less you need to depend on others. You become someone who doesn't need rescue because you have already learned to save yourself. In the end, the choice is yours to keep waiting for someone to rescue or take control and become the person who always wanted to be. Life belongs to those who have the courage to act. And the question is, are you ready to be the hero of your own journey? Often, what prevents us from moving forward is not lack of capacity, but excess luggage. Negative thoughts, toxic relationships, and useless concerns drain our energy without realizing it. Stoics teach us that, in order to live a full life, we must eliminate everything that does not strengthen us. The detachment is not lozenges to break free. The first step is to evaluate what really deserves space in your life. Some people and situations add nothing but emotional weight. If someone constantly makes you feel bad, manipulates your emotions, or does not respect your limits, it may be time to move away. You don't have to carry anyone on your back. Those who want to walk by your side need to learn to walk on their own. In addition to relationships, it is essential to get rid of thoughts that imprison you. Removing past errors or worrying over the future is a waste of energy. Stoics believe that only the present matters because it is the only time when we have control. The less you cling to what you can't change, the lighter it becomes. Another invisible weight is the need to please others. Living trying to meet the expectations of others is exhaustive, and in the end, no one is really satisfied, neither they nor you. Learn how to say no without guilt, and remember that your peace is worth more than the opinion of others. You do not need to justify your choices for those who do not live your life. Emotional minimalism also applies to excess information. We are constantly bombarded by news, social networks, and irrelevant opinions. Filter what you consume. The more your mind is overloaded with distractions, the less space you will have for what really matters. Silence and mental simplicity are keys to clarity and balance. Practice the detachment consciously. Ask yourself, does this strengthen me or weakens me? If the answer is the second option, cut without fear. You do not need to carry guilt, regrets, or people who pull you down. Lightness comes when you learn to let go what no longer serves you. In the end, who carries the least weight walks faster. The more you let out what holds you, the more space creates for what really matters. Life gets lighter when you choose to load only what makes you grow. And now, what are you ready to leave behind? Being financially independent is not just about money, but about having control of life itself. Stoics taught that true freedom comes from autonomy, and this includes the ability not to depend financially on anyone. The more you dominate your finances, the less vulnerable becomes manipulations, pressures, and forced choices. Many people live trapped in an exhaustive work cycle and endless debt because they have never learned to control their money. The problem is not in the amount they earn, but in the way they spend.